Hello and welcome. Today I want to show you one game called Tir Janag, which on ancient Persian should mean firing arrow or long arrow, something like that. This is an ancient game, very old, that was played on Persian court. And of course, everything I just said is not true. What happened is sometimes I have dreams of some games, and they are quite vivid. And if they have enough, let's say, they, I think there is a chance they actually could work. I usually made them. So I dreamt I playing this ancient game, and the look was similar to this. I was really trying to get the look the closest I seen it in my dream. So here I'm gonna show you how the game works, and it might be interesting for some. So the game is played on this board here, which in my dream was made out of marble, and so stone board with this nice, as you can see, like paintings. And we have like 40 of these little pebbles, which didn't look like this, but I made them a bit, uh, nicer looking. In my dream, they were just regular stone pebbles with engravings. And they have these engravings that were representing archers, horsemen, footmen, and the general. And on the board, there were two like pieces. One was a king, the other was a queen. And this was the setup. So this is an abstract two-player game. Now, there wasn't this thing on the board. I added this. So there were no any numbers, but I added this so it is easier for players to track some things. Let me explain how this game works and what's the objective and how do we win. So these 40 pebbles with units, and by the way, there are different numbers of them. So we have 10 archers, 10 horsemen, 12 footmen, and 8 generals. These are all put into the bag and shoved. And on your turn, you would draw 2 pebbles, and you would place one here on the beginning of this space. And by the way, we have a blue and red player, and this board is split on 2 spaces. So blue would sit on this side, and he would place pebbles on this side, and red would sit on this side, and he would place pebbles on this side from left to right. So you would draw 2 pebbles, and you would decide which one to place on this spot and which one to place on this first spot here. So what's the objective of the game? Objective of the game is to push your king on these spaces around the board all the way to this court. This space here is called the court. Once you do that, you immediately win the game. The queen also moves around the board, but the most the queen can move is to this space and maybe a few spaces over that. She will never get into the court. Once she passes that, something happens. I'm going to explain why, and then she goes all the way back into the palace. These are the blue palace and the red palace. So how do we move these game pieces? So we're using these pebbles, and as I said, on your turn you would place, let's say I want to place one here and one here. By the way, each unit, these stone pebbles, have how much it can move and how much it has a strength, and it's listed actually here. So let me get all 4 of them, so I'm going to explain on the example. Let's get horsemen also. So footmen can move 1 space, and these are the spaces, and he has strength of 2. The horseman can move 2 spaces and he has a strength of 3. The archer can move 3 spaces but has only strength of 1. And the general has a strength and movement depending how many units is in his space. So for instance, this general here has a strength of 3 and a movement of 3, including any other general. So now that you know that, let me show you how the game works. I'm going to play a few turns. So let's say I'm a blue player and I'm starting first. By the way, how do you determine the first player? Each player would draw one of these pebbles, and then you would look here and hierarchy, and you can see, the general is the highest, so then the horseman, then the archer, then the footman. So I draw a general, meaning the red player would go first. You would then take the pebbles back. If you take the same one, then the other player just take another one until you determine who's going to be the first player. So that's how you determine the first player. Shuffle that, draw 2, and let's see. So I decide to place horseman here and archer here. For now, nothing will happen. The only thing that will happen if we have 2 of the same in a space, and you'll see what's going to happen. Then the other player will also draw 2. And he decides to put the horseman here and footman here. Then back to me. It's quite quick. So I decide to put a footman here and a horseman here. Now that I have 2 horsemen, and whenever you have a duplicate, I'm going to move from this space a duplicate of a horseman and another one of any unit. In this case, I don't have another one of any unit. I only have a horseman. And as you can know, horseman can move 2. So this will go 1, 2. Bam. Okay. Second player try to do something similar. He decides to put a footman here and a general here. Then it's up to me. I decide to put the general here and footman here. Now normally I would be able to move footman and archer now forward one space. That's actually 2 spaces. That's how much footman can move. No, 1 space. Sorry, footman is the slowest. But in this first space, whenever you have a duplicates, you're gonna take both of them and place them back into the bag, and that's how many you're gonna move your queen. That much spaces. So footman can move 1, so my queen's gonna move 1. And let's continue. Here, well, I only have these 2 options. And now you resolve from right to left. Here, 2 footmen, right? So I can move 1 footman 1 space forward and 1 horseman 1 space forward. Here, I will put this back into the bag, and my queen is also to move 1 space. So what's the meaning of this? So eventually, as we put more units, they're going to move forward and forward until you fill in this space. This is the war space here. So let's put some units here just to show you. Let's see, maybe 2 footmen. All right. Let's put some units also here on the bottom. Let's, in this example, say that the blue player managed to have 6 units. He managed to move this much units on his turn. When you have 6 or more units in the war space, the war starts. And how is war resolved? Well, strength of all the units in this space against the strength of all the units of this space. So let's calculate. Here we have 2 footmen. Each of them has a strength of 2. So that's a 4. 2 horsemen. Each of them has a strength of 3. So that's a 6. So I already have a 10. General is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? I have 1 general. So 10 plus 5, that's 15. And then I have another general. So another 5. So I have 20 strength on the top. Well, this would be actually pretty good for me. On the bottom, so that's how many blue king has strength of his units. On the bottom, we only have 2, 4, 6 plus 1. Archer is 1 strength. So 2, 4, 6 plus 1, 7. That's a 7. The difference is how much the winning king is gonna move right now. So in this case, he's gonna move 13 spaces. This would be pretty good if you manage to do this. So the king is gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Only one shy away from his court. And if you manage to move at least one or more, he's gonna get to the court and you win the game. All the units in the war are then taken and back into the bag, and you shuffle the bag. So that's war. There is another thing. It's called skirmish. So let's go back a bit. And let's make another example here. Let's say there is something like this. And one of the queens, doesn't really matter which one, blue or the red one, moves into this space here or passes it. And you know how the queen is moved. When you have duplicate in the first space, you just return them back and then you move queen that much spaces depending on the unit so for instance, if I had a 2 archer, I can move queen three spaces. Once the queen passes this space, we have a skirmish, meaning that each of these yellow fields are now have a little war between themselves. So and you will resolve them from left to right. So let's see here. We have a general and a horseman, that's a 3, and general +1, that's a 4 against 2. So difference is 2 for the red king. The red king would move 2 spaces. Then you take everything, return back to bag. Then we resolve here. We have a horseman and the footman. Their strength are same, nothing happens. No difference, 0, 0, no movement. Okay, but they go back to the bag. And here we have a footman, that's a 2, and a horseman 3, and another 2. So that's a 5, 7 against one general which has 0 units, so he has 0 strength. Because you don't count the general, you count any other unit. So I have 7 against 0, my red king would move 7 more spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you return everything back. And that's the game. Eventually, one of the king will get to the court, and whoever does that wins the game. And this is Tir Janag. Janag, an ancient Persian game that I just dreamt about how it works and how it actually looks. Didn't manage to get some folks to play with yet, but I would sure like to test this further. I played few of the testing games against myself, but there is a strategy here. There is some luck involved, of course, with your drawings, but there is a strategy depending which units you want to place where and how much you want to move your queen, and when you want to pass the queen. Like when you have, if you're going to win more skirmishes, that's maybe the time when you want to push your queen. How many units you're going to pass into the war, into the last before other player, because if you manage to fill that up to 6 before the other player, you know, the more you put there and the better units you place there, the more points you can actually win just in 2 turns if you are pretty skilled with that. So that's the only thing I want to show you today, and we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna do some play tests, and I'm hoping to find opponents so I can record the video. That's all. See you next time, and goodbye.